Well, James, thank you very much. I guess undoubtedly we see there is value. Um, there's there's a positive cost benefit, and we'll get back to these figures, as James has said, when we hear more about the vulnerability assessment and the insurance structures. Don't get confused. Keep your questions, and let's get back to these figures as we go forward. But before now, we want to actually look at, well, the downside, right? So we clearly see there is value. So, what are the risks? And for this, we have our expert from Swiss Re, who will repeatedly come in. And as I said, they have the expertise. They have been working on the very first scheme. And so, first from Swiss Re is going to be Michael Waltz, a climate specialist. And he is joining us online. So, Michael, I can see you. Can you see us? And can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, fantastic. So,
All right.
we look forward. We are all here in the room, and we are looking forward to your presentation. I hand over to you. Can you see the slides as well?
Yes, I can see the slides.
Okay, so the floor is yours. Thank you, Mike.
All right. So thanks everyone also for having me and greetings from Singapore. That's where I'm speaking to you from today. I'm not sure if someone then can also switch the slides in the room.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. We just need okay, now we have the slides and we have yourself as well.
Okay.
So you just tell us when to switch the slides. Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
Over
Thank
to
you.
you.
So now that we've looked at the, let's say, financial value of those coral reefs, in the insurance world, then we also look at the risks, right? So we have to link those two things. What's the actual value of let's say an asset, and then what are the risks? And firstly, I'm going to go through a bit how we analyze those risks. At the end of the day, at Swiss Re, I mean, we're modeling like climate, but also other geo risks globally, and therefore we have quite a few internal tools. One of them is called CatNat, but we've also used some international data sets, especially for the rainfall, for the excess rainfall that we're going to look at. And I mean, we've also looked at some of those future projections for climate change scenarios, which are like very formally called SSP 5, 8.5 for the year 2040. And all of the results that we're showing are based on like either observed historical events or also on our Swiss Re in-house probabilistic risk models that's particularly relevant for tropical cyclones, which also on the right side, I put the snapshot of Manila, and those colored lines that you see are actually historic tropical cyclone tracks, and the little green pin here is the ADB headquarters. So there was quite some cyclone activity around the ADB headquarters in the most recent years. I think the data is from 1990 to 2025. So as you will see also in some later slides, the activity for tropical storms, as many of you would know, in the Philippines is very high, or it's very severe. And of course, this is just a view that we can, let's say, the more objective view. We really look at the historic events, we look at our internal models, but of course, a lot of those conclusions wouldn't have been possible also without the local stakeholder inputs, especially from the reef specialists. They're also really people that actually live close to the study sites. So I think this will also then be one of the conclusions, similar to what James has said before, that a lot of the study sites are very, very individual, and really the analysis really had to be tailored to the local site. The next slide, please, then. So this is a bit of a busy slide, but it really gives you the like in one slide an overview on what we have identified as the higher and lower risk perils. I mean, we've labeled it climate risks, but there is also earthquake and tsunami, which is not a climate risk but a geo risk. But all of the other ones you see here are the climatic risks that are related to those sites. I mean, I'll quickly go through them. We have the Philippines, which we've seen before, right? The tropical cyclone is a very severe risk. I mean, there's many cyclones around the Philippines every year. Then, of course, we have the sea temperature extremes and the heat stress, as also we've will be told later, also has an impact on the coral reefs, having sea surface temperature or sea temperatures that are above the normal. values. Then for the Philippines, earthquake and tsunami can also be a risk that really dislodge the coral or cover them in sediments. A bit on the lower side here is the precipitation or excess of rainfall, which on the first sight might be a bit strange to look at precipitation when you talk about something that's in the sea, but it's really also the discharge of the rivers, like after heavy rainfall events that really wash a lot of sediments and waste and everything else into the sea that also has an impact on the corals. However, our analysis showed that for the Philippines, that is not a major risk. Different to Indonesia on the lower left, the precipitation and excess of rainfall actually was identified as quite a strong risk by both the data and also by the feedback from the local stakeholders. Similarly to Philippines, also the sea surface temperature extremes, a bit on the lower risk or basically no risk for windstorm. We'll come to that in a bit later. Well, I'm going to show you the plot of all the tropical storms given the location close to the equator. So there's no tropical cyclone risk. And also the earthquake risk there at the study site seems on the lower side. For Fiji, also within a tropical storm corridor, so there's quite a big frequency of severe tropical storms. And also precipitation events that are sometimes, but not necessarily connected to the tropical storms. Sea temperature extreme and heat stress seem to be a bit of a less risky area here for the Fiji site, and same for earthquake and tsunami. And for the Solomon Islands, similar to Fiji, given it's also sort of in a similar Central Pacific area, windstorm and precipitation or excessive rainfall seems to be the higher risk. On the lower side, the water temperatures and also the earthquake. The next slide, please. So now I'm just going to quickly run through like how this at the end of the day looked like. I mean, we basically had these, I mean, in this CatNet tool that we have available at Swiss Re, in the middle picture here, you basically see the outline of the Philippines, and the blue dots are the study sites on the Siargao Island. And in the color shading, it basically shows you wind speeds or let's say the return period of a certain wind speed. And you can see that the study site is sort of in between the very high risk zones, which is more marked in red, and the blue and purple, which is sort of lower wind speed. So it's sort of in the middle. But still, it's a significant tropical storm risk. But then if you move to the next slide, that's then for the next site. I mean, if there's more detailed questions, we can come to that later, but I think in the interest of time, I'll just run you through some of these. Here is, for example, the very severe tropical storm Winston that affected Fiji. And you can see it has a bit of a very awkward track that like went back and forth, but it really had the most severe impact on Fiji, where you can see these purple little circles here on the right side of where the track is. And then maybe move to the next slide. This is now the heat stress risk that we identified as quite severe for the Nusa Penida site in Indonesia. So at the end of the day, SST is always the abbreviation for sea surface temperature, but the sea surface temperature is really just on the surface, but it's highly correlated, of course, what's happening underneath in the ocean. And then there is an indicator that's called degree heating weeks. And degree heating weeks is a bit of an aggregate, let's say, quantification of how much basically the water temperature is above the normal temperature as it should be, but it's sort of an aggregate index. So it's basically meaning you can have 1 degree warmer than normal for 1 week. It would be 1 degree heating week, but it could also be 2 degrees warmer than normal for 1 week. That would be 2 degree heating weeks. So it depends a bit. It could either be a longer stretch of 1 degree warmer or just a shorter period of time with really warm temperatures, let's say 2 or 3 degrees warmer, but only for a week. And this is a metric that's highly correlated also to the heat stress of these coral reefs. And as you can see here on the right side, this is data from now 2008 to 2024, I believe. And you can see these massive peaks, I think in 2010, 16, 2020, and 2022, where this degree heating week value goes up to 14 and almost, or actually 16 in 2016, which means there is a alert level 3. So those are defined by NOAA, the North Atlantic North American Ocean and Atmospheric Administration. They have those warning thresholds, and they're sort of correlated also to the degree heating weeks. And you can see here that the values, especially in the last 10 years, they've reached these very high levels 4 times. And also here on the left side, this is a bit more of a rolling average, but you see those peaks here as well. And also a bit of a trend, right? So it's no secret that there is a warming trend in the sea surface temperatures. So these events are getting, if anything, more common than less common. Next slide, please. So the last risk that we've not looked at so far is the pluvial flood risk or excess of rain. This was identified as quite a high risk zone for this Arnavon Community Park. Here, it's a bit of a zoom in. I mean, it's quite a small island, but the pluvial flood is opposite to the fluvial risk, which would be a river flood, but this is really standing water on the ground, mostly from excess rainfall. And according to our internal models here, this area, despite it just being this tiny island, is on a very high risk level, which means if you have an intense rainfall event around the Arnavon Community Marine Park, there's a high risk that it washes a lot of sediments into the sea, and then thereby impacting the reef. Next slide, please. This just to give you a quick overview on the tropical cyclone tracks that we've monitored since 1990 to 2020. So it's missing the last couple of years, but it still gives you a good overview that especially the Philippines and Fiji are within high risk areas of tropical storms, whereas Indonesia and the Solomon Islands are a bit outside of the track given their proximity to the equator, where you would not expect any tropical storm due to the geophysical like boundary conditions and the Earth's rotation. And then I think we can jump to the next slide, which gives a bit lessons learned and some takeaways. Very similar to what James has said before, right? All the 4 sites, given their location, are very different, both in terms of the valuation, but also in terms of the risks. Some of the risks are, I mean, overlapping, let's say, but then there's also some that are quite individual to the different sites. Like we have the high sea surface temperature, we have these excess rain, or the sites where the excess rain is really a main issue. I mean, I've not shown this here in these slides, but we've also looked at how this is going to change in the future. But it is really, I mean, this is of course quite challenging given the uncertainty in the models, but then also given the uncertainty in some developments. These different scenarios that I was mentioning earlier, this SSP stands for like shared social economic pathway. So it really depends also on how the entire world or the entire economy is moving. So results here are quite, I mean, have to be taken with some uncertainty, but I mean, it's something we did look into as well. And of course, also the resilience to the SSTs is quite location specific. For example, in some of the sites we looked at, the degree heating week of larger than 6 was already linked to quite a lot of or observed bleaching, but a bit less so at other locations. So you could say that the vulnerability also of these coral reefs is also a bit adapted to the local conditions. That's why even though we see an overall trend in warming sea surface temperatures, not everywhere is impacted the same. That's why we could also distinguish a bit between those like sea surface temperature hit risks for the different sites. And of course, it's I mean, as you've already seen, all the different parties that are involved in the project, it's a very multidisciplinary approach, and this is also really necessary because there's so many different influences or impacts on the reef, from climate, geophysical risks, and also the valuation, as we've seen before, is very different. So just sharing between the different sectors and different expertise, I think, especially in a workshop like you're having at the moment, is quite imperative to really tackle those problems. And I think with that, I'm done with my slides. I'm not sure if you have time for any questions now or later in the session.